So if I was a young marketer entering the field, and I want to be a potential CMO in the next, say, 15, 20 years, what are the core skills that you believe I need to start having? Because many a times this is something that is never talked about. We talked about the CMO, but I'm a young marketer walking with great dreams and aspirations about how to build a brand, how to build a great marketing organization. So therefore, what is it that I need to prepare myself for a great future?
Well, this is a very relevant question because marketing as a discipline has a significant challenge on recruiting young people into the discipline. Why? Because they're seeing a discipline that they perceive as selling things to people they don't need, that actually pollute the world and don't help anyone. That's not a great reputation as a discipline. I think if we do exactly what you say and say, what is it that today you want to do? You want to think about the discipline you're going into. I teach at Oxford University, and we had a session about this quite recently. And one of the, for me, aha moments was that if you look at the ambitions of the young people moving into any job, and you said this person wants to lead like a CEO, I would say act like a CEO day one. Act like this Da Vinci growth leader. Act in a manner that recognizes, and this is where it gets interesting, that actually the marketing people could sell products that people don't want to people that don't need them, that pollute the world, or you could be bringing massive changes in society that the world needs today. Now that's a big sell, but let me just try and back it up with some proof. If you're going into a discipline where you can honestly change how billions of people in the world think, feel, and act, would that be interesting to you? Does that appeal to your ambitions? I would say yes. Well, that's what we do. As marketers, we absolutely shape how people think about everything. I can give you 10 campaigns, like the one that Always has in Africa, that helps fathers recognize that there is nothing stigmatizing about a woman having her period, about a 14-year-old needing Always, but still able to go to school. It's not as something to be ashamed about. It's not a sickness. It's the most natural thing in life. It's the continuity of the cycle, and it needs to be celebrated, but the person needs to be helped so that they can pursue a career and their schooling. Now, that is a educational task. I can tell you about brands that have educated Indian fathers that it is not necessarily great that the child is being admonished if they don't get a 10 out of 10, but actually that perhaps an 8 out of 10 is great if the second sentence said, and they took care of the other people in the class that needed help. I heard a very funny joke. I have to share it with you, that apparently the mother of the new Prime Minister of England heard that he was going to be the first Indian origin Prime Minister, which I think is a massive thing. And her comment was, why not king? but so we as marketers, and many brands have done this, whether it's about the color of the skin or it's about stigmas around education and participation, we can shape how billions of people think. Think about the Dove Real Beauty campaign and a direct address to tell people, billions of people around the world, women around the world, that they are beautiful, not that they should start with the assumption that they're not and they need a cosmetic to correct their outer. So here is a discipline that I'm telling you, come in and you can shape how people think. Not only that, you can shape how they feel. We create communities, whether it's a community around we love football or it's a community around protecting the earth like Patagonia does. Brands are communities of people that share an interest. Nike, communities that exercise together by buying a shoe, but also by literally, physically joining together on the corner of 11th Street and Broadway at 7 a.m. because the app suggested that, and there's 12 people to go running with. We can do that as brands, and we can actually change what people do. Tide has managed to move millions, if not tens of millions of people, to shift the temperature button on their machines from 65 to 35 degrees. Imagine the climate effect impact of that change. Colgate has literally gotten people to switch the faucet off while they're brushing their teeth. It might sound completely trivial, but it's not. Of the total footprint, sustainability footprint of Colgate, the running the water while you're actually doing something else was the biggest component. And by educating people and changing their behavior, Colgate marketers are helping make the world a better place. So my first part would be to say we need to change how we talk about marketing to these people, to ambitious young people that want to change the world. I think there's many of them. And when they hear this story, I think they will think very differently about entering marketing. Then when they enter, I think it really comes down to act the way that I was told to act when you started, which is pretend you're the CEO. My very first product was a coffee creamer. It was 10% of the brand's revenue. It was profitable, but it was a tiny product, which wasn't even a core product, but it actually made a lot of sense to have it in the assortment given the proposition. But I was therefore the CEO of a coffee creamer company. It had sales of, I think it was 12 million. It was in every store. I could see my product. I could think about how to develop it. And I truly talked to the production people one day, the innovation people another day, the buyers, because we didn't make it ourselves. It was just not strategic enough. So the buyers that were dealing with the suppliers. And all these things were in my job description day one. I was a mini CEO, and it made me feel inspired. Act like a mini CEO. And this gets to the last point, which is a lot of companies have been acting differently for the last few decades. So they need you to speak up. They need the young generation to come in. And I think more and more often they're willing to listen. Half my work is telling senior leaders to listen better and connect better with the junior leaders in the organization who have this in them. So when you say, what should they do differently? First thing I would say is be themselves. Maybe you don't need to be so differently. Step up to the ambition you feel in your heart. Bring what actually motivates you to the organization that needs it. Be respectful. Don't try and tell people that have done the same job for 20 years that they've made a mistake for 20 years. But be influential and practice your skills of slowly moving the oil tanker in a new direction, which is better for you, better for that company, and better for the world.